Čia po to vėliau palauk.
So, is there any other guys, hooking up on and listening or looking, watching this live streaming? Some other guys as well.
Yeah, there was a few questions where we can find the link. The people are excited about your presentation. So
that's good.
It's going to be recorded, so people can play back and watch it later.
Okay, yeah.
And of course, you can watch it later.
Oh yeah, but yeah, so this is a PDF file of. Let's see. Well, so yeah, I just want to check the version.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, the latest or not. Yeah.
So you can watch here, or here.
Oh yeah, maybe. Maybe yeah.
If that window is not too small for you.
Yeah. Let me see. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. Good. Yeah. Just trying to remember. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I understand. This is the latest version.
Let us check a few minutes on that.
Yes.
Mes jau live streaminam, tai nepersikeikyt per daug. Ar girdisi? Girdisi. Nes dar čia ką yra.
Tai šiandien, aš pasižiūrėjau, kad žinai, kada tavęs nenaudoju. Aš tik pradėjau. Tai gerai. Pradėjau į sekundę. Pirmą tik gavau. Atsisis trumpam. Čia aš kameros sureguliuosiu. Ir tu pasižiūrėk, kad ten langelį gerai matyti.
Gerai. Jose daugiau reikia.
Oh, it's a live camera. Okay.
Ar tu dabar esi per vidurį?
Ne, biškiai čia. Dar. Jo, jo, gerai.
Kur? Negali matytis kameros.
Ne. Nu, dabar prasme, YouTube tai matos. Pranešėjas rimtas mato per ekraną. Čia gerai. Noriu pasidalinti linku, ar galim pasidalinti? Jeigu galiu ten ir telegramą, aš išėjau. Jeigu klausos, aš Gams yra. Kažkas įdėjo. I guess whenever you're ready. Man atrodo įdėjo. Ai, parašė Matijas, kas jau man.
Okay, sugar.
Yeah.
Take a job.
Oh yeah.
Reikia ką nors pristatyti apie? Okay, go ahead. You're a speaker.
Okay. Is there any sort of an introduction? No. Okay.
Yeah, so already everybody knows about.
Oh, okay.
Here.
So, okay. Good evening. Yeah, this is JH1GNU Gulf Norway United. I just came today to Vilnius, and in the morning, and I'm so glad to be able to visit the club here at the Society of Lithuania, and also given a chance to present. But anyway, so let me go ahead. And so this is the agenda I prepared for you guys, and I first started with my self-introduction, and let me talk about a little bit about the landscape of ham radioactivity in the JA, and I like to be talking about the kind of my recent outcome on antenna work, and I'll be talking about autonomous balancing radio system for elevated vertical antennas. So first of all, this is the self-introduction, and I was born in 1952, as same year as Viri, Lima Yankee to Papa X-ray, and I called myself Shige on the air, and been on the air since 1968, I think. And I've been a fishing rod antenna enthusiast, and I built all of my antennas from using the fishing rod and fishing poles. And I have written many articles for JA radio magazines. And I've been really active on QRP, and I completed 8-band DXCC on QRP, and especially on 30 meters, I ran just 1 watt to get 144 entities confirmed, so which is really a great achievement. And my recent outcome on a series of 9 articles for CQ ham radio and QEX Japan on the autonomous balancing radio system between April 2019 to January 25th. 2025. So, but anyway, so let me talk about a little bit about the Japanese amateur radio activity in Japan. So if you look at on the right-hand side, this is a map of Japanese islands, and starting with Japan Alpha 8, which is the northmost island and the big island, and then Japan Island, which is the main island, and the JA5 is a kind of independent island, as well as Japan Alpha 6. And the Pacific Ocean side is a kind of sunny side of Japan Island. The Japan Sea side is sort of very snowy side of the island, especially in the winter month. So Japan Alpha 1 and Japan Alpha 2, 3, these 3 areas occupy most of the population of amateur radio. And if you look at on the pie chart on the left-hand side, the total number of the call sign issued by the government is in last December. It was around 350,000 call signs, and most of them are occupied by Japan Alpha 1, 2, 3 district, and so these Japan Alpha 1, 2, 3 areas, the sunny side of the island, and the densely populated and the densely industrialized area of Japan. And if you look at the next slide, and the number of the JARL, Japanese Amateur Radio League members by district is, of course, it is almost proportional. And if you look at the total number, it is about 51,000. So that means that 1 out of 7 call signs, 1 out of 7 stations maybe, is a member of Japanese Amateur Radio League. I don't know what kind of ratio you have here in Lithuania, but this is better. What it is.
For sure, better.
Oh, really? Better in JA? Okay, I didn't know that.
Maybe members about 350. 350, yeah, around
800 licenses.
Yeah.
So that means much better, right?
Yeah.
Oh, very good, very good.
Half.
Okay.
We are trying to keep more.
Oh yeah, that's great. That's great. That is what we will.
Association in Japan or only one JR?
Only one JR. That's it. Yeah.
And rest are somewhere out.
Maybe by city or some particular interest.
Okay.
It used to be a kind of a single sideband groups, but now it is a matter, of course, in the era of homemade single sideband equipment. There was a single sideband group, but there is no such thing anymore. Anyway. Okay, so I'll be talking about the license system. We have 2 kinds of licenses. I don't know what it is here in Lithuania, but 2, yeah.
A and B.
No, the operator qualification license. There are 4 classes about that, and starting with the class 4, who is license to run about 10 watts on the single sideband on the HF, except for 30, 20, 17, and maybe 20 watts on the 6 meters and above. And class 3, 50 watt, class 2, 200 watts, and first class 1,000 watt. So and, there is a station license. So you have to have this operator qualification license first, and you have to get the station license. So that is a kind of difficult thing for a higher power station. So, but up to 200, you just what you need is just a paperwork. You can have the station and the call sign. Maybe except for some very close location to the hospitals or something like that, then there'll be some other treatment. But for most of the cases, 200 watts is okay, just with the paperwork. And there is one problem here in the JA that only registered transmitter or transceivers are allowed. If you are just going easy with the paperwork, you just write, I'm going to use ICOM 7300, then you can get your station license. But if you're going with your own truly homemade equipment, you have to prove, you have to submit the kind of a performance by using a spectrum analyzer and show that you have minus 550 dB of suppression, or 60 dB for VHF and UHF equipment. So that is really a kind of high hurdle, and this is very discouraging for amateur radio who really wish to make things by themselves. And for 200 watt and above, 201 watt and above, you have to have a real inspection, by a human being. So, and also maybe you can just use your money and borrow. You can ask somebody to measure and get some the data, the field data. But the most difficult part of getting a station license for higher power is you have to get the neighbor's consent, right? You have to have a written consent. So you have, in Japan, we usually say that you need a stamp from the neighbors to agree that you are going to have a high power station. And
I want to ask you.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Is there in apartment house or a private house as well?
Yeah, both. So
But if the neighbor lives something like half a kilometer from me.
probably most of the cases about maybe 30 meters or 20 meters, something like that. But
So
still, there are a bunch of
in the city, let's say in the town.
So it could be
If the lands
50 neighbors, or maybe if maybe this is my guess, but if you accumulate the number of the consent up to maybe 10, then maybe the authority will say yes, right? That kind of thing, right? Very analog about that.
Because here some neighbors doesn't know that we are hams.
But
and if you need to get the written consent from neighbor, so then you need to explain who you are.
What we do is that, okay, so because you're gonna get the kind of a preliminary license before you get a real station license. So okay, when I get my preliminary license, so I make a kind of a statement that I am going to test my radiation of the 500 watts output. And from this date to this date, and during this time period, and if you feel or if you find something wrong with your TV or phone, please let me know, or something like that.
Just
Okay, at
be
least.
To be kind at first.
So you have to be very diplomatic anyway. If you are not diplomatic, you won't be able to get this. So that's probably, this is a part of the reason there are so many Tokyo 10 watts stations that you find very strong, but they're still saying that, I'm just running 10 watts or 50 watts or something like that, right? And maybe there is one more thing that for portable operation, like JH1GNU stroke 1, it means portable, right? The portable stations are allowed to run 50 watts only. Regardless of the qualification you have or station license level, you just run 50 watt This is the upper limit.
Kilowatt, no?
No way, no way. So if you find some portable stations and strong enough, then you might think about the reality of this. Okay. Anyway, so oh yeah.
Licenses. One more question.
Oh, go ahead.
Is there some call signs
Mm-hmm.
how we can understand which the license, or it's like J1, JH1? is
No,
the-
no. Except for the club station. Club station license will start with for the suffix Yankee or Z.
And Z.
Z.
Yeah,
So these are the, and also 7J call. 7J calls are, given to the foreigners, non-Japanese
7J?
nationality. 7 Japan.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was like special.
Yeah.
Yeah, also,
Yeah.
that's a bit-
But there are
7
some, but there are some Japanese, Japanese nationality Japanese who owns 7J call sign. I really don't know how, but these are exceptions. But it is
7J,
usually
it means that it's not Japanese. Or Japanese.
no,
but-
Japanese, non-Japanese nationality, right?
Japan, but not Japanese.
Japanese, but
But not
Yeah, somehow. But because I think because even the U.S. guys cannot operate. I don't think they can get the JA call sign or 7 except for the 7J. So the U.S. citizens has just 7J call. So, but for Japanese we can use their call sign, right? My call is Whiskey Golf 6 Bravo, so I can operate over there. So it's not really as some new president says, it's a kind of not fair treatment. But anyway, okay. Okay, let me go ahead. So some characteristics of JA activity. So JA used to be maybe the kind of biggest, boast the biggest population in Far East, right? Because but anyway, at least until the end of the 20th century. So I think, and the DX is Europe, USA, or BKZL, that they are quite far away. So I think we have had a kind of strong conception that the DX should be, DX needs, high power and a very good antenna. And so most of the stations, because we have most of the licensees are 4th or 3rd class, so they really don't get, they didn't try to upgrade their licenses and stay with just the domestic QSOs. So the population is maybe more than the pyramid type of thing. So very big basement of the population. I was not able to find the population distribution of by license classes, but anyway, that's what the landscape was for Japanese amateur radio community in the 20th century, and so that this kind of strong conception makes just most of the stations, maybe 90% of the stations, stay with the domestic QSOs, because there aren't many other DX stations heard in JA. If you have just a 10 meters high dipole antenna for 40 meters, you just talk to the domestic station only, maybe except for some occasions. Or maybe some KG6 Guam or Alpha Hotel 2 right now. Maybe you can talk to it, but that was the situation for the 20th century. And this tendency is, I think it is still strong. And unique culture has emerged. That's the kind of my thought. But anyway, so if you look at on the right-hand side, the graph shows the number of the QSL cards went through the JARL Bureau. And if you look at the vertical axis, this is the real number. So do you see that, at 2012, the year of 2012, the domestic card exchange peaked at 10 million cards. Right, and the DX QSL exchange is somewhere around 1 million, so maybe end up not 10 million, but 11. But anyway, so if you remember the number of the members, it's 50,000. So if you divide by 50,000, then I end up with a 200 QSL card. On average, they exchange the card domestically. So kind of a domestic to domestic type of QSL exchange is a sort of tendency or culture. I don't know what we should call. So that's why I'm taking some pictures of the QSL bureau. And but anyway, so this is really kind of too much type of thing. And of course, this is a real big burden for the Japan Amateur Radio League because they hire. They had a kind of contract with maybe a company, or maybe company was established to do this kind of thing, but it is a big burden. Budgetary. So anyway, and if you understand Japanese and if you have a chance to listen to their conversation on 40 meters, for example, and I hear very often that, because I'll be sending you another QSL, because I got a new design. Okay, so it used to be the object of the card exchange is the confirmation of the QSO, but now it is going to be sending is really the object of sending the QSO card. So this is somehow ridiculous. But anyway, so this is the reality. That's why you sometimes get many QSLs for new QSOs, not really maybe on the same band, same mode, same band, but you still get some QSLs from the same station with the same setup or something like that.
Yeah, but Japanese sending regularly and big boxes, like
up
till 10 kilos, the box.
Up to 10 kilograms.
Yeah, I think in a year we're getting maybe 2, maximum 3 times.
So how many cards is it for 10 kilograms? I really don't.
How many?
Yeah, I asked the same question to Viri, but.
It depends on the QSL card.
Oh yeah, of course, but
if
roughly.
it's smaller and if it's the simple like this. But I didn't count how many. Just in kilos.
But many.
Yeah, but there's only the members, general members.
Oh yeah, right.
50,000 members.
Right.
They made big efforts.
Big effort, continuously.
Yeah, but
10 million hearts.
yeah, so we are getting quite a lot, and we are sending also, I think, once or twice per year.
But anyway, so it is descending, right, as a tendency, but it is coming up, and JLL said that, this is due to the FTA taking up.
Yeah.
For FTA, right? They should
It looks like if it's new contact, they are Japanese sending the card.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like by default.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so this is what it is in the behind the scene, right? So, I just I have no comment on this, but this is what's going on here over there in Japan.
But the Japanese cards in the oldest time, there was most highest quality.
Used to be.
We remember that we are getting, and so they were so happy to get like the kids get a toy. So we are checking nice photos, high quality. Now it's also in Europe they are making good cards.
Oh yeah.
These are still nice.
But domestically, there are a bunch of them. Just printed one side and just data only, no picture on the other side.
Yeah.
So, but it's okay, because it's it's a confirmation of the QSO, right? But don't send for every QSO.
Japanese are rich people; they are not saying paper.
But if the QSO bureau is really, run on a voluntary basis, for example.
Like here.
Yeah, right here, right. Yeah, so I think this kind of abuse should not happen. But because we are paying for on the contract, right? So I think this kind of okay, we are paying. So why don't we send many QSL as possible or something like that? But anyway, so this is what it is. So you enjoy this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Good work.
Okay. But I'm not really, condemning. But anyway, this is our kind of a culture. Okay, let me talk about the antenna. Okay, so this picture shows you the 3 vertical antennas, elevated radio vertical antennas with the looped radio system, and which I built together with my 2 friends on the island of Chatham back in 1918. And so I'll be talking about these antennas. So the consequence is that I was to develop and prepare the vertical antennas for 160 to 40, and that functioned definitely well at the expedition site with the least labor and the least material. And I had known elevated radio verticals sometimes does not perform well. And there are some kind of a misunderstanding. I thought there should be some kind of misunderstanding in myself, at least, that assure that elevated radio antenna works as it should work. So that is a kind of a start of my my story. Okay, so there are 2 types of famous verticals. The one on the left-hand side is a ground-mounted monopole antenna, or very classic low-band DX antenna. So, and the other one is the elevated radio vertical antenna. Okay, so that is the antenna that I'm going to talk tonight. But this one on the left-hand side is it's a monopole antenna, grounded, and it is usually installed with several tens of radials or radially arranged grounding wires. And usually in amateur applications, they don't use stakes into the soil, but in professional transmitting station, they use stakes, and so that ensure the lowest impedance as possible, a grounding resistance. So it's a grounded monopole antenna. So it is similar, look like similar, but it is quite different. So that's the story I am going to talk about tonight. And it is known that the elevated radio antenna works as great as the grounded vertical antenna, monopole antenna. Theoretically, yes, and also confirmed by the many experiments. But it doesn't work sometimes, so that is the point. So this is what I already said. And okay, so the elevated radio antenna is a dipole antenna. It's a sort of a dipole antenna. Yeah. What we know about the dipole antenna is the 2 poles, but in the horizontal dipole antenna, it's a very symmetric. But this is asymmetric. Asymmetric means not symmetrical, because there are 2 sets of elements, but the lower end is just 2 of them in parallel, connected, and the vertical antenna is the other side. So this is a symmetric antenna. And if you look at this symmetric dipole antenna or elevated vertical antenna, this is, very high above the ground, so we don't care about the ground at all. But anyway, so the current distribution, if you look at the current distributions, along with each of the elements, is that the vertical element has a 100% magnitude, and the radial side or lower side, each leg has a 50% of the amplitude. And because of the symmetric physical configuration, these 2 radiation from each leg of the radials cancel each other. And radiation from a pair of radial elements vanishes. So that means radial is to vanish. That is the most important function, so that the vertical element, only vertical elements radiate. So that is the principle of this antenna to operate. And this antenna becomes a monopole antenna as the grounded monopole antenna. Exactly the same antenna operation principle. But so the important point is that the radial a pair of radio has to cancel each other. The radiation from the pair of the radial elements has to cancel each other. So most important function of the radio system is to disappear for itself. So there are many arguments how many radios is needed, but it is really the case of the discussion is really true for, valid for, or useful for the grounded mounted vertical, but for elevated radio, such discussion as how many radio we need is nonsense, because the function of the radio in elevated radio vertical is to vanish. So you do not, you cannot tell how many radio elements you have so long as it vanishes. And even if just two of them, it vanishes completely. So this is a big misunderstanding about this antenna. So, and also, so elevated radio vertical is a great invention because you don't have to have the ground. And for VHF and UHF antenna purpose as a vertical radiator, you can have it very high without the ground. You don't have to stick to the ground at all. So this is was a great invention. Okay, so what we usually build as what the elevated radio vertical antenna we usually build is in between these two antennas. One is ideally installed antenna on the left-hand side. It is completely balanced, so the radial system vanishes. Okay, but on the right-hand side, it's an L-shaped dipole antenna. The current balance was very bad, and maybe the other element, other half of the radial is not working, and you end up with the L-shaped dipole. This case really happens, but anyway, what we build usually with our technique is in between these two antennas. So that is really kind of important understanding. And let's look at the prior work by K5IU Dick. And Dick and WX0B, who is known to, I think he is the owner of DX Engineering in northern Texas or somewhere. And these guys are kind of a good guy, a good friend, and carry out many, antenna measurement. And they are looking at the radial current distribution or radial current balance. And WX0B has had two elevated radial vertical, and they measured one of them. And what they found is that on the left-hand side, the west radial has for example, 1 amp. The east side has 0.8 amp, so which is kind of a good balance. But if you go to the high end of the 160 meter frequency to 1.885, then they found is just 10-to-1 ratio. So what I explained in the previous slide really happened. So this is the reality, and the K5IU did many measurements like this about the stations, the antennas owned by the Avid low band DXs, and he could not find any good balanced antenna. So that is really a reality, but we usually don't measure the current, so we don't know this. But this is really the fact. So I really wanted to visualize or quantify the imbalance. So this is the method I employed. I first measure the vertical element and east end radial, and then I would switch to the west radial and vertical element. So if you compare the impedance characteristics, then you may be able to tell some difference, right? And also, I measure the impedance of a vertical, connected both of the radials, and also measure the amplitude of the current with the diode detector rectifier type of the radio frequency current probe. That can be buy in Japan. But anyway, so this is this is a kind of the picture that I was on a very hot day. The east radio, west radio, and they're hanging a these are voltmeter. And you see the FT 250 43 toroidal core with the W1GL fashioned common mode choke cord to feed the feed with the coaxial cable, right? So anyway, so this kind of measurement was repeated and repeated. But anyway, so this is the impedance characteristics with the as-built 20-meter elevated vertical antenna at 1.9 meter high. So if you look at the blue curve, this is the east LDP, means the east radial and the vertical element. And if you look at the orange curve, the west LDP, the west radial and vertical element. So the resonance frequencies observed in each measurement are different, right? So one is 14.068 and 14.194 for the west LDP. So these are the kind of the difference that we can identify from the LDP, L-dipole impedance measurement. But if you look at the vertical antenna impedance measurement, then it is just a kind of broad, and you can really, tell which is which. So I think this is really, distilling some kind of difference. And if you measure the current of the radial with that, you remember the picture that I showed. And the east LDP, the blue line, but represent the east radial current. But in the right-hand graph, it is measured with the vertical antenna. Both radials are connected, of course. And most importantly, so the blue line, the current on the east radial decreases as the frequency increased, okay? And but on the other side, the west radial current goes up. And so they have some crossover around 1405 or somewhere around there, okay? So from the impedance curvature, because the impedance from the vertical element looking at the radial, east LDP has a higher impedance with increased frequency compared with the west radial. Then, or it could be that east radial will lose the current, and west radial will get that current. So what I'd like to say is that these two radial elements compete each other for the current to draw from the vertical element. But you can tell that from the impedance characteristics curvatures that this is really inconsistent with that kind of impedance characteristic that we see in the LDP measurement. And if you go down underneath 1405 or so, then the radial current, reversed. That means the crossover of the impedance curvature for the LDPs. So this is what's happening in what the K5IU found in WX0B's 160 meter vertical, two elevated radial vertical antenna. That this kind of crossover is kind of an instability in the balance. Oh yeah, if you look at the red curve on the right-hand side graph, then it is just a simple division. So, crossover is maybe expressed as 100% is a kind of a balance. And the balance deteriorates as the frequency is increased. But of course, you can do the other way. But anyway, so it is about 20% of loss. And because it is only 20 meter band width, but for 160 meter, it is more than that. So then you will get to maybe 10-to-1 kind of ratio at the end of the higher end of the 160 meter band. So this is what's going on most of the low band antenna, and as well as usual high frequency band. But it's not a big problem as it was for the 160 meter band because of the bandwidth of operation. Okay, so there are two ways to conquer this problem, to solve this problem. One way is by proposed and approved by G6X and Moxon, the famous guy, of course. What he proposes that use a common coil or common big reactance and connected for radial commonly. And the radial length has to be other than quarter wavelength. This is I have to explain. Okay, but the reason why this kind of competition occurs is that because each radial is resonating at the quarter wavelength frequency, and the curvature comes down and comes up, and changing the impedance polarity from capacitive to inductive, for each of the legs. Then this is really the complication of the drawing the current and competing the current to each other. So this is very, a complicated matter. But what Moxon proposes is that, why don't you use a shorter or much longer element, much longer radial element? Then there won't be any kind of resonance as of quarter wavelength. And so these elements, radial elements, do not compete for each other. But need a common coil. If it is a low band, then I think you guys will use 1/8, for example, much shorter lengths of the radio, and use a common coil, insert it, and then you have the resonance as an antenna, and this will avoid the instability in the band. Okay, the other way, this is more a practical and easier method. That this is the invention by W6TC Badger, and he just make it a loop. He really loves looping anything, so he is very famous for W6TC loops. If you read many articles in the QST, he wrote many of them. But anyway, this is I think the last one before he became silent key. But anyway, so he looped, and what he was found with the computer simulation was that he had 0.7 to 0.3 kind of imbalance in the radial current by computer simulation. But to making it loop, then he will find it 0.49 or 0.51, something like that. So complete balance will emerge. So that is his findings. And so I did a follow-up experiment. I folded it back. It's a kind of a butterfly shape. And this is a 40-meter vertical antenna. But anyway, so it is open, and as built, it has this kind of distribution balance, radial balance down to maybe about 10%. So this is a very good antenna as a 40-meter vertical antenna as built. But if you connect both tips, then the loop is just stable. It doesn't move at all, within just about 0.2% or something like that. And it is very, very stable. And also I have to mention that the current probes are not very exact. So the point here is that you have a very stable in-band balance in the current, in the radio current. So this can be stabilized. Looping can stabilize the current. And so I added 26 centimeters on one side. So the open means that it is not looped, right? So open characteristics, the balance very much deteriorated down to 70%, from 90% or somewhere. So this was very bad. But once it is connected, then it restored to the 95% plus minus 0.1 or something like that. It doesn't move at all. Very, 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 very stable. So that means that looping has this kind of very strong autonomous effect to have the balance. So you can forget about the balance. Oops. And so when I got this kind of result, this is the antenna method or radial method that I should take with me to the Z07. So that is why I showed you the first picture of the antennas I installed. Okay, so this guy, JH1GNU Queen Victor Japan, who is active on FT8 on 40 meter, he built a more aggressive kind of installation for the radio, in terms of radio. he employed 1/8 of redwoods for each leg of the radial and make it a butterfly-shaped loop. And he added a coil to have the resonance. The vertical radiator is almost full size. And so you look at the footprint of the radial, it is only 2.1 meter. And so this is very small. And because of this small size, he can build the radial system to the antenna itself. So it is no hanging or something like that. So it is all built in one system. And this method was also, employed by JH1 Victor Sugar Hotel, who is the friend of JH1 QBJ, on the 80 meter, only 4.2 by 4.2 meter. But I don't know about anybody who tried 8.4, 8.4 around 60 meter. But I think it is very easy. But okay, so this is his implementation as a 4 square. Because you look at this, this is a unit radiator. So you see 4 of them, right? And because of the footprint of the radial, it is kind of a ideally, a neat installation. And as you know, this don't step over my legs problem. I don't know what you call this. This is kind of a joking name, but in a 4 square area, I think you know that, right? Because the very long, a 40 meter by 40 meter, but you like to have the unit radiator as 40 meter square, right? So ending up with a kind of L-shaped dipole. So you're losing 3 dB already as a unit radiator. And make it a beam antenna, it's okay, but I think it is much better to have a smaller footprint radial before you make it beam. But anyway, so don't step over my legs problem will be completely solved by this installation. But anyway, unfortunately, there have been no following up articles on the W6TC or K5IU's articles. So nobody is really talking about this kind of thing. But anyway, so this is really kind of a problem that can be solved very easily. Okay, so this is a summary for elevated radio vertical antenna radio systems. Okay, yeah.
About this loop connecting ends.
Yeah.
I think it's okay from RF point of view.
Yeah, sure.
The current at the end is very small. So if you connect, the current stays small.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Only, RF, this not current. Voltage is bigger. So the most important, the phase is okay.
Okay. So the question is that so looping itself is okay or not, right? And first of all, yeah. Let me go back to this slide. So this, if you look at the radial current distribution, it is symmetric. That means that if you think about the voltage, yes. So each end, these are my arms are for the radials, right? So the voltage comes up this way and comes down this way. But if it is a dipole antenna, if I am a voltage source and I have 2 legs, then the voltage comes this way and this way, right? So, but the radial, it is parallel underneath the feed point, right? So these 2 radials are driven by the same phase. That means that voltage comes up and comes down. So if you make it a loop, you still have the same voltage. So you don't have the voltage gap. If it is, symmetry, if you have a symmetry, then there's no such thing like sparking or not, because you have the same voltage at all times. Does it make sense? So it is quite okay to make it loop. And if you have imbalance, for example, if this leg is longer and this leg is shorter, then the looping will make it will find a kind of a neutral point for itself, then end up with that kind of stability in the balance of the current. So this is a very, very neat method. Okay, so let me conclude. So anyway, so please remember that best radio system is the system that vanishes for itself. So regardless of how many radios you use, or because it vanishes, you can tell how many radios you use. So but there's many myths. Adding more radio, the better. Yes, I think this is really the case for ground-mounted, because you will reduce the grounding resistance. And mixed use with radios laying on the ground for elevated radio makes worse. So these are kind of the things that really, have to be, understood. But anyway, so a quarter wave radio system. Number two, the quarter wave radio system is inherently unstable for radio current balance. So make it shorter or longer, or use loop. So there are two autonomous balancing methods. One is common coil with non-resonant radio length. And second one is a looped radio. And my personal opinion is looped radio is much easier and much stronger in making the balance. And the combination of these is possible. And antenna footprint reduction with retaining the true vertical operation. You can still have the very true vertical antenna operation. So you can forget about that if you use a loop antenna. Loop radio, more freedom in the construction because you can use the small one. Okay, so this is it. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. not my idea, but okay.
Now let's go to construct antennas.
Yeah. Please try. Just loop it. Yeah, it's solved. And
I know what for the next year 160 meters contest
Oh, yeah.
do at country
But-
my team.
there was low band monitor, kind of a community journal, low band monitor by K0 Charlie Sugar. But I think he already disappeared. But anyway, he introduced K5IU's article, and so he tried to, tried the autonomous balancing method be known, but no, because he went QRT and no follow-up after that. So this is not really well known in the DX community. So I'm so kind of. So also Moxon was so unhappy about this because he was disregarded completely. So this is kind of my recommendation. So but anyway, use loop and use small amount of coil. Because if you make it loop, then you have to, if you have the full resonance, quarter wave, you have the resonance on the band. But if you make it a loop, then the resonance frequency will come up a little bit. So you have to adjust with the coil, for example. And this is just several times of coil, and you just make it resonant at the operation frequency you want. So no harm, just a small inductance. And so, but anyway, so this is kind of the easiest one, and that is usually the way that I install the antenna. And also, if you add some, if you thicken the basement of the vertical element and make it a kind of a tapered element shape, then tapered element shape has a wider SWR range, lower SWR range. So that will be also benefit. Will give you a benefit in terms of the low SWR width. So I think you can very easily observe this. with your SWR meter analyzer.
Question
Yeah.
regarding this type of antenna and the usual vertical antenna.
Mhm.
Do you have ever tried experimenting testing any of them about the noise level and then the range?
Okay.
Can get?
So the noise level of imbalanced vertical. I mean, the well-balanced vertical and the imbalanced vertical, right? You were talking about the maybe the difference. Maybe you're gonna see in balanced vertical and the imbalanced vertical. I never did that, but let me try to remember the cosine correctly. But the HS00 Z QE or some did the 30-meter guy. He tried this. I mean, so he has some kind of a nearby noise generating stuff, and with the balanced looped radio, he observed less noise coming from this. But if he use kind of an imbalanced configuration, then he hears much noise from this noise generation stuff. So that is the only experience or kind of experience I have.
Common mode choke is hard.
Oh yeah, common mode choke, yeah.
Unbalanced.
Because elevated radio want to separate the ground. So common mode choke is masked, so you have to have it at the feed point, and maybe you have 2 meters high, for example. You have another one so that you can really cut the common mode current, and you can end up with maybe 2-3% of the current observing by these 2 cores. I mean, common mode choke coils. So which is very, good. We are talking about, maybe at least 1 to 9 type of the balance in the radio. So maybe, choking is very important. But for ground-mounted monopole, you don't have to use that, of course, because you are sitting on the ground. Electrically ground in. But for elevated radio, you have to use it.
And vertical element 20% longer, it means it's to move from 36 ohm to 50.
Oh yeah, exactly.
More.
Yes, and with the
It will move from the center of.
very good question. Yeah, but if you have a very good, a common mode choke coil, and a W1GL fashion, do you know that? Yeah, but I have the picture of that. Yeah, this is the one. So you have to have some turns and go across and the other turns so that you can separate the high impedance ends of the coil, so that you can have a very high isolation. But anyway, so if you have this, if you employ this kind of thing, then you can deviate from the real center, a neutral point, by 20%. It's okay. So it is a kind of, you can avoid using the hairpin matching coil or something like that. But anyway, if you increase by 10%, I think you have a more higher impedance and easier, feeding. So I think it is a good practice with using a W1GL fashioned choke coil. But you don't have to, but you can use that.
Thank you.
Okay, anything any other than that? Yeah. So if you're interested in the full radial, elevated radial, this is what he measured, K5IU measured. Because, it is very difficult to have a balance. Even in 2 of them, it is almost impossible to have perfect balance, or maybe 10-9, 10-9, or something like that, for radio. No way. Okay. Yeah, the right-hand side is a better case, right? So maybe this is really best. So full radio doesn't mean anything. Yeah, maybe you end up with some sort of bandwidth improvement, but you really cannot tell if you are staggering the L-shaped dipole. You have a bandwidth, a wider bandwidth. But if you have exact symmetrical four radials, maybe you end up with some bandwidth gain, but probably you really cannot do that in implementation. So this is really the result. So it is very difficult for radial, okay, but it is not really practical. Doesn't make sense. Of course, depending on the frequency, maybe. Okay. Yeah. So I think. Thank you. So yeah, please consider. This is really the first time for me to present in English. So, well, thank you very much for asking so many questions, and I really enjoyed that. But you can get the file. You can get the file. Oh, this is very easy. Oh, this is yeah. So this is comparing. Common coil method, you end up with narrower bandwidth because you use the coil, big coil, because 1/8 on each side. But if it is root, then much wider. But even for common mode coil, if you make it taper shape, then you can enlarge the bandwidth. Not so big deal, but you can just add another aluminum wire, and you end up with a wider coverage of the 1.5 SWR bandwidth, which is very good. So that is really good. I tried with many pipes and bundling them with the metal band, and you make this kind of very fat shape and also a thin shape, and also, but you can really tell that very easily with just SWR measurement. But this is very this is well known, but not very. Not many articles talk about this, because you guys use Yagi antennas, right? And the tapered element.
No.
No? Oh, I'm sorry.
In the city with Yagi antenna.
No, okay. Oh, very good. But if the Yagi antenna is a tapered antenna, so it has a very long, wide SW range, because the reactance, the curvature is very, kind of soft, not very fast. So it is very nice to have a tapered element, but you have to have a little bit longer length to have the same resonance frequency if it is tapered. But still, if you compensate with a coil, loading coil, you have to add loading coil with tapered antenna, but you have a wide SWR range. So, but anyway, but these are the.
We have only one Yagi here.
Really?
He is Yagi, the black one.
Okay.
Only the one Yagi.
But Yagi elements have this kind of characteristic. But anyway, you employ for the vertical antenna to see this.
Yeah, but the Yagi in the city, it's.
Oh no. No, I'm talking about the vertical antenna.
Yeah, I understand. But in the city situation,
Oh, yeah.
so that's vertical multiband. That's nothing better.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I checked his antenna. Yeah, R8 is a very good antenna because it is designed by W1JR, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a FOC guy, right?
Yeah.
Roy.
We have copies, Polish copies.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh really? Oh, there is a
Similar
copy.
antenna, but the Polish producer made a copy and sell for good price.
So W1JR really knows, what the radio has to do. So radio is to disappear. So nothing with the kind of no investment, no big investment for the radio, but let it disappear exactly. Then you have the radio only. So that's really what he knows about this. But he doesn't publish that. because maybe he's a professional.
How about multi-bands radials?
No.
Multi-band capability.
Oh, multi-band capability. Ne? Yeah, that's another thing that. So loop is somehow, at least for the common coil, it is not possible because it is heavily, loaded. So you cannot have. You have to have another set of the radial system. But for loop, because you can parallel, but not at the hottest point, but with the field point, you can parallel the other radial for multi-band purposes. But there is much to, there's much to, I would like to really discuss, but for today, I think it is, multi-band, yes, much more about the vertical, yes, thank you. So, please, this copy is okay, maybe K5IU, I don't know how he says about this, but thank you, okay.
Aš jau kaip prieš priėmiau ir rašiau tik tai tą sumą, ką aš